Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our Sunday show. This is Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Tonight, we're going to delve into the various religious beliefs in Liberia. We're going to concentrate specifically on the three major ones. That would be Islam, Christianity, and traditional African beliefs. Our guest is no stranger to this forum, Dr.nya Kwiawon Taryor. Dr. Taryor, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Well, thank you very much, Dennis. Thank you for inviting me.
All right. Dr. Taryor, he's a preacher, a writer, an author, a lecturer, and also publishing books. He is a former professor at Cotton University, also at the Banga School of Theology. Dr. Kwiawon Taryor, he has written many books, including Religious Beliefs and Politics in Liberia. Dr. Taryor, once again, we say welcome to Focus on Liberia to take us through some of the religious beliefs in our country.
Thank you very much. Well, when we initially talked about possibilities of sharing with your audience the major religions in Liberia, I was a little bit hesitant because each of these religions, you can take the entire semester or entire year teaching or learning about each of them. And in Liberia, there are three major religions. You have the African traditional religion, and you have Islam, followed by Christianity. But each of these religions has played a major role in the history and development of Liberia. We do not know precisely that the actual number of persons or adherent to each of these religions, but there are many sources that provide us with estimations with a wide range of statistical discrepancy and conflicting data in regards to the percentage of Liberian population that makes up each of the religions in Liberia. But the most reliable source indicates that, or at least most of the scholars believe that Islam, you have 10% of the Liberian population that practices Islam. And you have 15% that practices Christianity, and 75% practices the African traditional religion. Now, let me first of all explain what this African traditional religion is.
All right. Dr. Taryor, before you go there, that was a good way to whet our appetite. And because I'm looking forward to especially this traditional African religion. But we want to give a few shout outs to there are a lot of activities going on in Atlanta, Georgia, the metro area this weekend.
Okay.
One of these is a convention from the Liberian Mandingos Association in the USA, that is Feldman USA or FEMUSA. And I believe they are leaving today. We want to say welcome to Atlanta and safe travel. We also want to give a shout out to my colleagues from the Monrovia College class of '88. We had our own reunion today, this weekend, and they are leaving today, as you can see.
Okay.
So we want to say safe trip to all those that are traveling. I understand the Liberian Journalists Association, or the ALJA, they have their own reunion in Minnesota. And I believe today is the last day. We want to say safe trip, and all these things contribute to Liberians meeting together, deciding to do something that will contribute meaningfully to our country. And we also have an announcement here from the Liberian Embassy.
Okay.
The Liberian Embassy is having some activities this weekend. I want to take time to read that announcement. That's from the Liberian Embassy in Washington, D.C. It says the Liberia celebrates July 26th. The Embassy of Liberia near Washington, D.C. celebrates the 172nd Independence Anniversary of the Republic of Liberia. All Liberians and friends of Liberia are invited to the following events to commemorate the Independence Anniversary. Saturday, July 20, 2019, from 10 a.m. all day long cultural extravaganza on the grounds of the embassy located at 5201 60th Street, Northwest Washington, D.C., to showcase the cultural diversity of Liberia. Then on Saturday, July 21st, that's my daughter's birthday also, at 4 p.m., there will be an intercessory worship service at the Zion's Praise Tabernacle Lutheran Church. That's on 6600 Laurel Bowie Road. That's in Maryland. Then on Friday, July 26th, that's the main day, there are going to be a diplomatic reception, and that is by invitation only. We hope Focus on Liberia will be on your list, and Dr. Taryor also will be there so that we can commemorate July 26th together. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say welcome to Focus on Liberia. We have dedicated this Independence Month to studying or looking deeply into Liberia. Last week, we discussed Liberian culture, art, and culture. This week, we're going to attempt to explore the religious beliefs in Liberia and the impact they have on our social, political, and economic development. We're going to look at that. During the week, in the middle of the week, we're going to discuss Liberian sports, especially basketball and soccer, and we have other in between. We're going to discuss that, and on. We want to know more. People want to know more about this country because we are tired of being, Liberia, Liberia being remembered as Civil War, Ebola, and all that. So we want to showcase who Liberians truly are and what Liberia stands for. So in an attempt to do that, we get experts in the area to tell us. Dr. Taryor is here tonight to talk to us about the various religious beliefs in Liberia. Dr. Taryor, before we go further, just give me a little background of yourself concerning religion. I know this is what you studied.
Yes, I studied religion. I studied at the university in Liberia. At Cottington, I studied economics and history. And after graduation, my bishop asked me to come to America and study religion. I was supposed to be the youth coordinator of the Methodist Church. But when I got to Atlanta, I was told that my grades were good, so I should go into divinity. And after I got my master's degree, I went back. I went to California and did a doctorate degree. And this was long time ago. That was in 1976 when I earned my doctorate degree. And I came back to Liberia. I taught at Cottington Theology, Ethics for a little while, and I was the president and dean of the Banga School of Theology, where I served for a little while, and then I came back to the United States. I have been teaching and preaching and helping young people in both continents, America and Liberia, telling them the story about religion and what religion is, Christianity, Islam, and all the other religious practices around the world.
All right. So for us to begin, Dr. Taryor, let's first understand what religion is and where does that concept come from? Does it come from us or it come from God?
Well, religion does not really come from God. There is no universal definition of religion under the English law. Instead, different definitions have been developed by the courts and tribunals in relationship to different religious rites and so forth. But there is no clear definition because scholars argue over what religion is and what it is not. But from my understanding, religion is the belief in and worship of a supreme deity or supreme God, controlling power, especially the personal God or gods. So it's the idea about religion. There's sometimes a little concern about religion and science, whether both of those are together in terms of how they understand humanity or the world or the earth, or they are different entities in themselves. And different scholars have different views.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So in the case of Liberia, mm-hmm. what would you say, or at what point did we actually begin this organized religion?
Well, in talking about organized religion, of the three religions that we have that I talked about, Christianity, Islam, and the African traditional religion. African traditional religions have always been part of our culture. We've always practiced that. It had been part of the religious experience for many years, many years, until the coming in of Islam, and then followed by Christianity. Of the three religions, like I said, the African traditional religion can be referred to as the oldest living religion in Liberia. The traditional religion was here long before the Muslims penetrated the Sudanese and Guinea Savannah region to reach the coast of West Africa in the 15th century, following the trade route from Timbuktu and Guinea to Niger, went through there. And then the Muslim came from the Sahel, spreading the trade, commerce, and the Islamic faith with the gold-bearing and cola-producing areas along the forest region. By the same token, centuries before the arrival of the Americo-Liberian settlers and Christian missionaries from America in the 18th century, which is in the 1800s, which is 19th century, the inhabitants of the coastal region, African region, or the Green Coast, now that we call Liberia, has continued unabated in their practices of African traditional religion. So it didn't just come about yesterday. It been the African traditional religion had been practiced from time immemorial. Now, there are 16 ethnic groups in Liberia, and each ethnic group has its own religious system and sets of beliefs and practices, including ceremonies, rituals, prayers, sacrifices, offerings, and so forth. Now, these traditional religions are practiced mostly by people who dwell in the hinterlands and rural areas in Liberia. But this does not mean that they do not carry that religious experience into the city. In fact, as they go to the city, there are a lot of things they practice in the traditional religious experience that they manifest in Monrovia. Even if they are Christian or Muslim, they still carry part of that African traditional religious practice. Now, the ethnic groups among which 3/4 of our population practice ATRR, the Bendi, they are 80% of the people there practice traditional religion. The Dan or Gio people, 95% of them practice traditional religion. And the Pele, and I'm not saying Pele, I'm not saying Pese, but Pele people 90% of them practice African traditional religion. And in the Loma area, 80% practice African traditional religion. And the Ma or Mano area, 95% practice African traditional religion. The Sapo people, 80% of them practice African traditional religion. And the Kran community, 80% also practice traditional religion.
Doug, before you continue, this is hot topic. I start getting comments on Facebook already.
Okay.
Before we go to those comments, what is the purpose of religion? What purpose does it serve?
Well, long before, early, I don't like to use the word primitive, but I will say early traditional people used religion to wear away fear of the supernatural that they did not understand. There was always a feeling that we as human beings did not create ourselves, but there is somebody or something or some intelligence far beyond our own intelligence that controls the universe, that created human beings and everything that there is. So therefore, that's how religion gradually developed, and people were in awe of phenomena like lightning, thunder, earthquake. All these were things that feared people. They made them afraid. So they thought, well, there must be a God somewhere. There must be somebody ruling this world. So we have to do something to satisfy this supreme being. So the purpose of religion actually is for us to see if to make ourselves feel secure from what we don't understand.
Question.
Now, what is the nature of the traditional religion in Liberia?
Before you go there,
okay.
Elizabeth says she disagrees with you strongly.
About?
I disagree with you. The last religious statistics in Liberia shows that Muslims are 3%, Christians are 85%, and 12% are native religion.
Well, if she understood the preface of my statement, that there are all kinds of information out there about the percentage of religion practiced by each area. And scholars disagree on most of them. And I told you earlier that there's this statistical discrepancy among scholars, so that there is no one defined number that we can say this is the absolute.
Dave Jai is saying religion and spirituality, are they the same or different?
Well, they are not really the same. They emphasize there are some commonalities between them and there are differences between them. But spirituality will probably be more personal than religion.
What does that mean?
Spirituality, you develop your own personal spiritual awareness, your spiritual being. And on the other hand, in general religion, some people go into religion to satisfy their intellectual curiosity, to be able to know how other religions are, what are practiced in those other religions. Like when I was teaching world religion or the religions of the world, there are many religions around the world that confess or profess other things that may be strange to anybody. But a spirituality thing is a personal issue that relates to you and your divinity and your divine God.
All right. Let me give you a chance now. No more question. Let's go into a survey of these three major religions.
Okay.
You have the preference to start anywhere.
Okay. Like I said, the African traditional religion, like all other religions, most African traditional religions in Africa. The African traditional religions are not universal religions. They are parochial religions. That is, in every ethnic group, there is a religious practice that is not compatible or comparable to other ethnic groups. Each ethnic group, again, let me clarify the use of this word ethnic group. I rather say ethnic group than to say tribe. Some people say tribe, but I don't consider them as interchangeable. But my understanding of tribe, people, early anthropologists refer to us as people who belong to this tribe or that tribe, and it comes along with it a lot of connotation, negative connotation, like tribal people are uncouth people, tribal people are not intelligent, tribal people are so many connotations. So instead of using the word tribal, I use ethnic, because these Westerners don't refer themselves. In Europe, for example, you have different ethnicities. They don't call themselves tribes, but it's the ethnic groups. The Slavics, the Germans, and this group, that group, they are all different tribes, but we refer to them as ethnic groups. So in Africa too, we have ethnic groups. Now, like I said, with the African traditional religion, religious practice is done through oral history and rituals. There are no books or written expositions or spiritual experiences recorded by people who practice these religions. And through oral history and rituals, stories, myths, and proverbs, parables, songs, their common religious experience are preserved, or experiences are preserved. There are no holy scripture, no doctrines or creeds to be recited. The beliefs are written on the hearts of the minds of those who are adherents of these religions. In the African traditional religions, there are no popes, there are no bishops, no particular leader to carry out the sacred functions. In most cases, there are no distinctive religious functionaries as priests or preachers or religious leaders. Now, there's those who are the sources of authority in our community, in community life, are the embodiment of the tradition. They are also the custodians of the values of the tradition. There are no missionaries to proselyte or to evangelize and convert other ethnic groups into the religion of your own ethnic group. Ethnic groups do not convert other ethnic groups or take on the religions of different ethnic groups, except during ancient days of tribal conquest. When one ethnic group conquers one group, they made the conquered people to adopt the tradition of the conqueror. All right. But in almost all cases, there are no religious buildings for worship like the church or the temple or the mosque like you have in Islam, or church like you have in Christianity, or the temple as you have in Judaism. In African traditional religion, they worship everywhere, in anywhere, and at all times. It's not like Christianity that will lock the word of God in a box. On Sunday, you go and see God and talk with God, but after that, the rest of the week, you are free to do whatever you want to do. It's not that kind of tradition in African traditional religion. Now, the common eschatological perspective are shared among the ethnic peoples of Liberia. They believe in the continuation of life after death. When a person dies, that's not the end of the individual. Like traditional beliefs among African people, so it is in Liberia. Their beliefs in life after death does not constitute a hope for the future or any better life for the future. When you die, you just change your address You move from one address to the other. You move from the word of the known, the word of the visible, to the word of the unknown and the word of the invisible. Now, to live here now is the most important concern of African traditional religious activities and beliefs. There is little, if any, concern with the distinction or distinctly spiritual welfare of the spirit of the human apart from the physical life. No line is drawn between the spiritual and the physical. In African traditional religion, life is considered from a holistic perspective. There is neither a paradise to be hoped for, nor a hell to fear in the afterlife. In the African tradition, the traditional religion, there is no belief that you are going to heaven or hell. None of that. And since there are no inter-ethnic conversion, every person is said to be born within the religious system of his or her own clan and ethnicity. The African statement, we don't show children God, they know it when they are born. African traditional religion places supreme emphasis on the unity of life and the society or community. There are no compartmentalizing of life into such as religion. This is religion, this is non-religion, and this is the sacred, and this is the secular, or this is the secular and the profane. And there are no fine line of delineation drawn between religion on the one hand and politics on the other. They are all the same thing. So you don't make that distinction in African traditional religion. Now, in a cosmological scheme of things, the fusion of profanity and the sacred has implications for the relations between the individual and the spiritual world, as well as the individual and the community. Thus, any violation of the behavior and racial codes constitute a betrayal of one's own soul and one's own community. Community is so important in African traditional religion. In fact, we depend on one another. The communal life is so important. In one of John Beatty's book, he writes that one of the philosophies of African tradition is, I am because we are. And since we are, therefore I am. Meaning, I'm here as I am now, not because of my own bootstraps that I developed myself, but if you say so, who fed you when you were a baby? Who bought clothes for you? Who gave you a place, a warm place to live? Who gave you food? Who educated you? You didn't do all of this by yourself. It's the community that nurtured you. So therefore, in the African traditional religion, they believe in the society, the community. In that religious practice, there is a holistic approach to life. Life is religion, and religion is life. And because of the perversive nature of traditional religions, the unity and rhythm of life seem diffused in the entire system, from the crib to the grave. Everything in life has some religious implication. In traditional religions, there's vitality and power, continuity and wholeness of society, and a strong commitment to communal humanism, health, and healing. You see it all over Liberia. When you travel from one village to the other, you will see that. In the Liberian languages, for example, I don't know of one language that has a word for the term religion or politics. It's all mixed up. There is no such a thing as religion or politics. It's all a way of life. Now, among the different ethnic groups in Liberia, individuals have different opinions and beliefs about their myths, their rituals, their ceremonies, etc. There are many names for God as there are ethnicities. Example, the Dane people call God Zra. The Vai people call God Kamba. And the Kisi people call God Allah. And the Dan or Gyo people call God Abi. The Man people or Mano people, you call them, call God Wala. And the Pele people call God Allah. And the Loma people call God Gala. And so forth. The Bassa people, I think they say Grebor. Now, among the different ethnic groups in Liberia, especially those who subscribe to the tenet of traditional religion, the universe or the world is full of spirits. We believe in spirits. All around us, you see, there are spirits. Above all these spirits, there is the one supreme spirit who is the creator of all things and the sustainer of all life. Beneath this great spirit, who is referred to as Kamba, Hala, Abi, Wala, Yala, Gala, Zra, Grebor, or simply God, there are lesser deities or lesser spirits. Now, these lesser spirits or deities or divinities are not equal in power with the great creator. They are all made by the same great spirit, and this supreme divine spirit manifests power through them. It must be understood here that there is a belief in only one God, the supreme God. Some people have gone around saying that African beliefs, they believe in many gods. That is not the fact. The fact is there is a supreme God they believe in, but the supreme God, there are other deities and minor lesser deities that are empowered to mediate between humanity and the divine, the high God. Now, the supreme spirit, it is the case with other African cultures too, such as the Ashantis, the Nuers, the Dink, or the Mendi and other groups. Similar beliefs are there. Now, there are two categories of spirits. There are the spirits who were never born as human beings, but those spirits were created by God and they have never been human beings before. That's the first category. They are not like us. When we die, we have our spirits, but they were created as spirits. Then the second category are those of us who live as human beings and we die. When we die, we have our spirits, and the spirits are different. But the spirit lives in the world, in the spirit world. Now, these are called the ancestral spirits, those that have lived as human beings, but have died, but no longer human beings, but they have turned into spirits. Now, these spirits are called ancestral spirits. They can choose to be good or they can choose to be bad, especially those who have recently died in less than 5 generations are still remembered by those who are living. They are said to be a part of the family. Say, for example, my uncle died 2 weeks ago. That my uncle is dead, but we believe that he's not actually dead. He's still living with us. He's still around here. And some writers refer to them as the living dead. Though physically dead, yet they are vital part of our society and our community, the community of the living.
So Doc, what purpose do they serve, these ancestral spirits?
These ancestral spirits, now, they serve several purposes. So let's just continue. I will share with you what I'm talking about. They make frequent visits to their descendants, that those of us who are living, our dead relatives make constant visits to us through dreams, through personification in the form of snake or in some form of animals. Now, we need to do what we call libation. Like you have a drink, Coca-Cola or Bioco or wine, whatever you have. Before you start drinking, you pour a little bit to the ground. That's libation. That is to please the spirit, the ancestral spirit. You have given a share of what you have. And in that case, they will reciprocate for you. They will serve as guidance for you. They will make sure that no harm comes to you, according to the African traditional belief. So the offerings of animal and sacrifices are to maintain good relationship with them and to keep them in close contact with the living. In return, the spirits are expected to reciprocate by bestowing good fortune and driving away mishap from the living descendants. These ancestral spirits are considered to be very, very powerful and very, very helpful to those who are living. Okay, maybe we can pause and do other things before we go on to the other.
Right. If you just joined us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are discussing religious beliefs in Liberia. And the one we're talking about now is the traditional beliefs, not Christianity, not Islam, not Buddhism and the rest of it. The first one we are highlighting is the traditional African belief.
1 second.
And our guest is Dr. Kwiawon Taryor. He's the president emeritus of Banka School of Theology. He also professor emeritus of Kotner University College. He has taught religion and ethics in many universities, both here in the USA and also in Liberia. And if you want to participate, our number is 706-684-0392. You can also post your comments on Facebook and we're going to read them. And you can interact with Professor Emeritus, Dr. Kwiawon Taryor. Dr. Taryor, Guanu say, how do you consider voodooism?
Well, actually, that voodooism, it's actually called voodoo. Most of the people from Dahomey, many years ago, during the time of colonialism, they were shipped to a place called Haiti. Now in Haiti, Voodooism is a mixture of Catholicism and African traditional religion. Now, one thing I think I need to clarify here. Some people want to confuse African traditional religion with Molime or with evil spirits. Some people have referred to African traditional religion as heathenism. All kind of negative terminology have been applied to African traditional religions. And the reason is simple. They do not understand what is the phenomena. They do not understand the phenomena. So because a lot of the missionaries and a lot of the anthropologists that came to Africa and to Liberia also, they now understand the phenomena. So therefore, they give us names that were misnomer. For example, the stall walker, the spirit that walks on long stick, that we call long devil. Africans did not believe in devil. That's a Western concept of devil. No African country, or I mean, no Liberian, in any Liberian community, there is the word devil. But the Westerners have instilled in our mind that anything that is evil is devil. So therefore, they think the store walker that walks on the stick is a dumb devil. But if you listen to your own language and see what that thing is called, in my language, the man language, we say ge. Ge is not devil, really. Ge is spirit. When you die, your spirit becomes ge. So ge is not devil, but it misunderstood it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a misnomer.
Another question, when I asked you about the purpose of religion or how it came about, so Dave Jai is responding to that. He said, how has a concept established out of curiosity, speculation, and superstition continued to thrive in more sophisticated world?
Well, first of all, we must know that in early times, the phenomenon here, religious phenomena, continues to replicate itself in different manifestations. And these different manifestations have taken on different life and different expressions. Now, we may consider those to be hedonistic, but in reality, that's what the people believe. And everything is transformative. Everything is in progress. Nothing is actually absolute. If you study philosophy and theology, nothing is actually absolute. We are all in the process of becoming. And in science today, you see that technology is changing every day. So there is no one permanent idea that can even be considered the truth. Truth of yesterdays have become falsehood of today.
Dr. Taryor,
yes.
we have a caller on the line.
All right.
Caller, your name and where you calling from?
Yes, good afternoon, Dr. Taryor. My name is Kwiawon. I call you from Washington, D.C.
Dr. Guano?
McDonough Guano.
Oh, McDonough Guano, okay.
McDonough, your question or comment?
Yeah, relative to voodooism, I was not satisfied with the answers given by the professor.
Okay.
The fact is that he brushed over the definition of what voodooism is. Voodoo is not a mixture of Catholicism and African religion. Voodoo, a traditional religion found in Benin, Nigeria, and Togo primarily.
Okay.
Some of them were able to go to in the New World, and while there are variants of voodooism that believe in Catholicism, voodooism is a particularly African religion that believes in the spirit, like he was talking about. So my question to him was, can we consider voodooism without the Catholic variant as a traditional African religion or as a traditional African belief or a religion? Because it cuts across national boundaries today.
Okay.
There are voodoo practices in Benin. There are voodoo practices in Togo. There are voodoo practices in Haiti. There are voodoo practices in Dominican Republic.
Yeah, part of those places you are naming, part of Dahomey.
The python plays a key role. The snake, the python plays a key role as a deity. Okay, and those variants are also found in African countries. I am a Mano man. I come from Nimba. I live in Togo. I have gone to Benin. Every June 7 is the Voodoo Day. And when you go there, they take you to the shrine and the rest of it.
Okay.
There are variants. There are similarities of voodooism to traditional belief in, for example, in Nimba. The Ahase. As a member of the Foro Society, the Ahase.
Okay. Let me clarify a couple of things.
They were not very clear.
All right.
Let me clarify a couple of things.
Thank you, Mr. Guano. You can take your answer up there. Let Dr. Taryor respond.
In the first place, you are not a Mano man. You are not a Mano man. You are a man. You don't go in a village and say, Mano Minenga, you don't say that. You say Mami. The word Mano is a corruption of Man. The Pele people call us Manu, Manu, and finally it's changed to Manu. We are not Manu people. We are Man people. So never call yourself Manu man. You are a man. Now, let's go back to the issue. The place, some of the places you are calling is what I referred to earlier as Dahomey. They have changed their name. A lot of the African countries, after they got their independence, they changed names and they were subdivided also. Like for example, Gold Coast changed its name from Gold Coast to Ghana. And some places changed their name. Rhodesia changed to Zimbabwe. Other places changed their names. So the traditional African religions that was practiced in those places you named earlier, when people leave an environment and go into the next environment, they don't go Casablanca. They go with their experiences, they practice what they are doing. In fact, a lot of us here in America continue to eat fufu or GB every day. Because we are out of the place, it doesn't mean we don't carry on our tradition. But when we come here, sometimes we take on a new religious experience. So that's how the Catholicism comes in with people who were in Dahomey. I would have gone to Haiti. The Catholic faith in Haiti was the predominant religion there. So they mix up the religion. There is no religion that is purely of that religion. There's always a mixture of something. Like I was saying earlier, when a person who practices African traditional religions leaves from the village and comes into the city, that person will still carry on libation. That person may still carry on sacrifices, but yet that person is a Christian. Some of the Christians go into Monrovia, sometimes they carry 2 or 3 wives with them. The other things they carry, they continue to do. There's a continuity of your religious experience, and you add on another kind of religious experience. So we are ambivalent people. We have the white man's God on our left hand, and we have the traditional religion on our right hand. We have the Islamic thing on our other hand. So we bring all these different manifestations of religious experiences and mix them together at a point where you find no longer delineation of truly who you are. I know of someone who's trying to be a Christian and a Muslim in Liberia. You can't be both. You cannot be both. You are either a Christian or a Muslim because of 2 different beliefs altogether. In the Christian belief, there is a belief in the Trinity. There is God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. And we believe that this God, this one divine God, manifests God's self into these 3 different manifestations. Right. But the Muslims believe drastically in God being the only God, and there is no wife, no daughter, no children. In fact, we are just created by God. We are not God's children. You have children when you can have a child, born a child, but we are just created by God. So you can't believe in Islam and also believe in Christianity. But
Dr. Taryor.
Yes.
His point is, Voodooism, you were referring to the one that is practiced in Haiti. Mm-hmm. He's coming back to the origin of it and say, is there a pure Voodooism besides the Catholic component? So in Haiti, you get that Catholic and Voodooism combined. But if you go back to Dahomey where it started, yes, you still have the pure or the one that does not.
Nothing is really pure.
Okay.
With the change of time, with the new ideas coming in and the new practices, it cannot be completely pure. It had been interjected with other new ideas. So the Buddhism that was practiced in 1842 is not the same as it's practiced in 2019. So they are always mixed. Right. Okay. You following through?
Yeah, follow. Yes. But let me come to the question of, because anytime we understand religion, for us Christian, we look at it from our Christian background and try to understand it that same way. So I want to see the concept of sin or good and evil.
Okay.
The African traditional belief.
Okay. The concept of sin in the African traditional religion, when you violate the social norm and ethics of the community lays out certain basic rules and regulations and ethical principles that must be followed. And it is in coherent with the communal lifestyle. And when there is a breach of expectations, and then you have sin. But in a lot of instances, what Liberians, we are talking in context of our country now, well, what we refer to as sin from the Western tradition may not be sin for the African understanding of reality. For example, in the African traditional sense, those of you who probably grew up in inland churches, Methodist, I mean not Methodist, but Baptist churches inland, they told you, oh, you don't smoke, you don't drink, you don't eat cola nuts, you don't do this. These are sin. When you do this, then you are sinning against God. Instead of emphasizing the health reason, they will emphasize the fact that you have sinned. And in fact, the issue of going to hell and heaven was a kind of early 18th, 19th century concept that put fear of God in people. The sin, what we in the African traditional religion may consider sin, may not necessarily be a sin in the Christian religion or Islamic religion. In the Christian religion, sin is to miss the mark, meaning to disobey God. When God expects you to do certain things, there is sin. In fact, there are two kinds of sin. There is sin of commission and there is sin of omission, according to the Christian belief. When you are supposed to do certain things and you don't do those things, that's considered sin. When you are supposed to do not to do anything, certain things, and you do them, that's sin. So in the Christian belief, there is that duality of sin, whether it's something you have done or something you have not done.
Yeah, so that's I think we spent a good bit of time on traditional religion. So continue now with Christianity, how it came about.
Well, why don't we go, okay, if you want me to do Christianity, we can do Christianity.
Oh, you want to do Islam?
Well, I wanted to just reflect on Islam because it's a short.
Okay, yeah, sure, let's do that.
You want to do Islam?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, Islam came to Liberia on early, maybe in the 15th century. And the Muslims were actually coming from North Africa. They were coming from North Africa. And coming to North Africa, they had to go through the gold belts of Ghana. They had to go through the places like Timbuktu. They have go. They came from the Sahel. Okay, they came from the Sahel. When they came from the Sahel, and those who really brought them to us were the Malinki people, the Mandingo people. And they went down through the south, across the Sudan, Guinea, Savannah region, and through Timbuktu, Guinea, through Niger, and most of the Manding, as oral tradition has it, they came from Baila, those that settled in Liberia, from Baila or Masandu, as they established their routes to the coast. And the basic commercial enterprise in which the Mandingo were engaged along the trade routes were buying cola nuts, preaching their religion, carrying cotton cloth and ivory, sometimes guns, sometimes gunpowder, going through the belt. Now, along the coastal region of Liberia, at that time, long they were called the Green Coast, and the Mandingo traders established their own quarters and transacted business with the people of Cape Mount early, and they also had a strong tie with the Day Angola people there. And as they moved further into the forest region, they made contact with the Loma and the Bandi. In Richard Kabe's article he wrote some time back, this is what he wrote, and I'll read a quote. He says, the principal proselyting agents were the clerics who accompanied the traders. Islamic clerics in these parts, or in this part of West Africa, were called various names, such as Marabu, Mori, Karamokos, and other names. Many, perhaps most, were members of the Qadariya, as Islamic Tariq, which is literally the path of brotherhood, which is found throughout much of the Muslim world, unquote. Now, most of the Mandingos that were the Karamokos or the Molime or the sometimes referred to as Godmen, founded the Quranic schools, they built schools where kids would carry these little tablets and they would write on these little it was like just little tablets, and they had chalk to write on it. And most of the languages, I mean, most of the concept came from the Quran, and they would write, learn to speak Arabic, and they would learn to memorize the Quran. And basically that is what was taught. And they didn't mess around with Western education as much, but eventually, later days, the Islamic community started sending their children to the Western schools. And those people had such practices as fixing talisman, divining, officiating sacrifices for the rulers and others. Like most of the practices of Islam it was different from Christian practice. The two the differences between the two, the Muslims appeal to the leaders, to the head of the society, the head of the community. The clerics will come and talk to the chiefs. They will come and talk to the people in charge and try to convert them so that they in turn can convert their people. But that was not the case with Christianity. Christianity did not come to the elite and the high and lifted up. They came to the folks that were ground down in the villages, the people who were rejected and despised. So they built their ministry among the poor. You see the difference all over the place. All right, but anyway, the Karamokos came along with the Mandingos, and these were clerics. They were people who knew how to read the Quran. And the first thing they did was establish schools in the different towns. And even though it is believed that the Islamic faith entered Liberia by the 15th century, it did not make very much impact during the following centuries until the late 19th or early 20th century, after the church had come and established itself. There were very few Mandings or Mandingo traders in Liberia in the 18th century and early 19th century. The few of the Liberians at that time spent only part of the year in Liberia, the Mandingos, but the rest of the time they went back to Guinea with coastal trade, goose, and whatever they have purchased, the cola nuts, the groundnuts, peanuts, and everything that they were carrying to Guinea or Mali and other places to sell. Almost all Liberian Muslims are of the Orthodox Islam called Sunni. You know, they have sects, like we have denominations in Christianity where you have Methodist, Baptist, Presbyterian, Lutherans, and all of that. The Muslims also have sects. And the Sunni sect is the very new sect in world Islam, but it's the most popular one. And it is the most dominant group of nearly all the indigenous African Muslims. Now, the Shiite Muslims are represented in Liberia also. Among the Lebanese, basically, when the Lebanese were there, most of them were Shiite Muslim. They mostly engaged in trade and commerce. And in the 50s, 1950s, another Islamic sect, usually referred to as Ahmadiyya, which is considered heretical, was brought to Liberia, but it started in India. It was India that particular branch of Islam started. This sect was founded by a man named Ghulam Ahmed. And it was in India around 1835 to 1908. The Ahmadiyyas, for example, Ahmadiyya is based in India, but very active in West and East Africa. This sect has very strong missionary zeal, and it opposes the Orthodox Islamic practices of the Shias and the Sunnis. Very few persons from the African traditional religion have been converted to this particular Ahmadiyya faith. Most Ahmadis have become Ahmadis because they were either converted from Christianity or converted from the Orthodox Islam group. Now, it's important to note here that the Vai and the Mandingos, the Mandi, have been considerably influenced by the Sunnis, or the Sunni sect. Among the Kisi, the Mendi, and the Gola, we also see a tremendous amount of influence on these ethnic groups. Sometimes the entire community within those ethnic groups have become Islamized. About 90% of the Mandingos, or the Mendi people, are Muslims, and about 75% of the Vai are Muslims. One of the finest mosques or places of worship in West Africa is the mosque that was built in Banga. During the time I was the president and dean of the Banga School of Theology. The mosque in Banga was very beautiful. And there you find the Banga School of Theology and Interdenominational Theological Center, which is run by the United Methodists and Episcopalians, as well as the Lutherans. Now, there is a kind of an ecumenical spirit at the time I was there, ecumenical spirit all over the place. Because in that center in Banga, you had the Roman Catholic Church, St. Martin, and seminary there. And you also had the Methodist School of Theology. And there was a proliferation of independent churches all over the place. Those who practice African traditional religion, independent churches were those churches that broke away from the traditional churches, such as the Roman Catholic Church or Baptist Church or Methodist Church, and formed their own indigenous church. And one of the examples of those would have been Mother Dukley, for example. These independent churches functioned independently. They did not need support from abroad like the traditional churches always extending their hands to the Board of Global Ministries for money to support their ministry. But in Banga, while I was the dean of the seminary there, I brought in a Muslim, I brought in a Roman Catholic, I brought in an Episcopalian, I brought in a Lutheran, and we all helped at the seminary. So we could give different religious experiences to our students. Now,
Dr. Taryor, before you continue, because there is this argument that, especially when it comes to the founding of Liberia, Liberia was founded on Christian principles. And I have colleagues of the Muslim faith that continue to refute that, hey, Islam was the first to come to Liberia. So how can Christianity that came later be the one upon which the country was established?
Well, here is the point. Here is the point. Even though at the time it was Green Coast, Muslims were there, the indigenous African traditional religion were practiced there. But when the Christian came in from America and other parts of the world and established the nation, they changed the Green Coast stuff to Liberia. And they brought in the Baptist Church, the Methodist Episcopal Church, and established a stronghold. So in fact, they took dominant position all over the place. They control the economy, they control the education, they control the health, they control almost everything, There were constant wars between the indigenous people and the settlers, if you remember. Some of it took place in Cape Palmas. Some of it took place in different regions in other places. But when the expatriates that came from America had a stronghold in a place and brought their religion, they made their religion dominant. Not that they came first, no. In fact, they were the last to come in. But because of their power and dominance, they were able to make leeway in those areas.
That should be a great segue into discussing Christianity, as our time is fast spent, so that we can go into the impact.
Huh?
I said, so let's talk briefly about Christianity, then we can switch to the impact of religion on our culture, our social, political, and economic development. Okay. But let's do a little bit on Christianity first.
Okay, let's do a little bit on Christianity. The spread of Christianity on the West African coast started with the non-settlers, non-white rather, settlers from the ex-slave countries. Some of them came from England, some of them came from America, some of them came from other parts of the world, from even Haiti, if you will, and the Caribbeans came from different places. They settled in Liberia. And when they settled in Liberia, in 1822, those immigrants from the United States, they have come from the New World, and the African traditional religions that they carried in America, they were still practicing them in different ways, but Christianity took hold. And some of them became Baptist preachers and Methodist preachers and so forth and so on. So when they came to Liberia, they had at least three major goals. First of all, to Christianize that area, to civilize that area, and also to Westernize the area. The efforts, they spread it in every area. So even though they came to live among the Liberian, the people, indigenous people, during the first half of the 19th century, only two Protestant denominations took it upon themselves the mission spreading Christianity, the Methodist Church and the Protestant Episcopal Church. if you will discover, you will learn that the Methodist Church came early, and CWA was established. CWA was established, and it was expected to be a college or a junior college, but eventually it became high school. Then by 1926, a man and his wife by the name of the Harleys, George Way Harley, they established a mission in Ganta. When they established a mission in Ganta, they came primarily and purposely to build a medical mission. And this medical mission, they started with a dispensary. Then later on, they changed the dispensary to a modern hospital. Following that, they built a school. And Joseph Hatzel gave them some money for them to expand the work of the education in the area. They built a schoolhouse. They were not expecting to graduate college student there or even high school student there. It was basically for fundamental, rudimentary education. So they built a house that had 4 classrooms. So when you graduated from the 4th grade or 5th grade, you were okay to go out to, to do trade. So it was a school that was established based on building the intellect as well as doing something with the hand. There were carpenter shop and mechanic shop and this shop and that shop. Students were trained to do these things. In 1932, when Cor Black or Miss Mildred Black came, they put her in charge of the school. The Harleys put her in charge of the school, and she worked there. And then later on, the Kofis came in. By 1938, 39, they took on the school. And Mildred Black became a person in literature, in translating the Man language into the English language, or translating the Bible into the Man language. So that happened for a little while. And then the final thing they did before leaving in 1966 was to build a church. And that church is called Miller McAllister United Methodist Church. Now, I'm just giving you one example of the work of missionaries coming to Liberia. But there were other missionaries from different denominations that were building institutions in different places in the state, in the country. Now, the Lutherans located their area in the Salala area, no, not Salala, where you have LTR, Sanoye, I think they call it. And they expanded that place at the Lutheran quarter. And the
Bandy areas.
Yeah, the Episcopalians went to not Maryland, where the Vice come from.
Cape Mount.
The Cape Mount. They went to Cape Mount and established their institution there. But they also, in Monrovia, there were these different denominations contesting against each other. And they established a very interesting rule. Listen to this. They established a very interesting rule, which was patronized after the colonial power. Every denomination had a specific place they occupied as their territory, their region. No denomination was allowed to proselyte in those areas. If you come into the Baptist area, you were told to leave. You don't stay in the Baptist area, find your own area. So Liberia is literally divided also into religious block.
Right, and Dr. Taryor, it was interesting. I was in a conversation that came about. I don't know whether that was, if the government had any role to play, say, well, this is your spot, this is my spot, this is your spot. But interestingly, what we found out is areas that were settled by the Methodists, they brought a lot of development. There's a question here. If you go places that were like the Assembly of God, everything was about Christianity and how to live holy life. You don't see the investment other people did in other areas. So based on that, Christopher Tobasi is asking, in Liberia, the Baptist missionary do not invest heavily into education like the Catholic. Why? But my question too is—
the reason is clear. The reason is clear. Now, in the Christian faith, you have the liberal wings and the conservative wing. And you have the fundamentalists. And you have those churches that are not fundamentalist, but they are more worldly oriented. So they accompany their religious practices with practical, physical, worldly, circular activities, so that you can be a round person. Some of the institutions that we have had in Liberia, from fundamentalist Christian settings, they brought in their concerns were basically morality from the Western perspective, and you must obey the laws. In order to go to heaven, there were certain rules you were to follow, and they were not concerned with the spirit, the body and the spirit, and other health issues. Basically, it was just religious. So you see that in the different practices. But eventually, the churches begin to take note of what some other churches were doing, and they begin to expand their horizon in other areas, or either they did it themselves, or they amalgamated with or connected with some other denominations in an ecumenical undertaking, so that they can do joint venture. For example, the Methodist Church and the Lutheran Church, including the Episcopal Church, came together and formed the seminary in Banga, so that the general courses that are taught will be taught, but there will be special emphasis on denominational courses. So you do Old Testament. Old Testament does not have Baptist or Lutheran manifestation or concentration, but it's just the Bible itself. And then when you did New Testament, it was the same thing. You probably learned Greek and did everything, but not as a Baptist or as a Lutheran. And you learn certain things like ethics, certain things like form of worship. Now, when you begin to go into worship and doctrines, then you look at specific denominational requirements to be filled before you graduate. So that's how it is. That's how it is. But anyway, let's move on. The American Liberians basically settled around the coastal region, coastal area, and established their churches there in those places. Like I said, for example, Lakiri, the church established under the leadership of Lakiri. The Presbyterian Church was shortly to follow in 1833 under the leadership of John Penny, who helped to construct their first church in 1833 and the organization of their first presbytery in 1848. In 1836, the Protestant Episcopal Church was established under the leadership of the combined domestic and foreign missionary societies. So there were different societies from America who helped these churches that were being formed in Liberia. And during the same time, the Methodist and the Episcopal churches were also being established, and the Baptist church was also being established, as Lee Rothfitz points out. But the church quickly expanded its efforts to reach into the hinterlands, The Methodists, who were devoted to working solely among the American Liberians, soon saw more opportunities to do so, to do creative ministry. What was happening is that now missionaries were coming from abroad, bringing more money, bringing more missionaries, bringing more technical people to work in the laboratories. It was no longer, let's go and preach the kerygma to the people, but it was more than kerygma. The kerygma comprised of doing social work among the people, doing health work among the people, and literary work too among the people, because they realized that a Christian that is not well educated will not be able to understand the Bible clearly. So education became the bedrock of what they were doing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So overall,
Mm-hmm.
what has or been the impact of all these religions or these religious beliefs? First, before we get to that, I just want you to touch briefly on other religions that exist in Liberia and where we can find them.
Okay. In Liberia, you have some Buddhists, you have some Hindus, you do have some maybe Zoroastrian. You also may have some Ahmadiyas in the Islamic Church, Islamic faith, and you also have some other different kinds of religions that are Eastern religions. For example, you may have Judaism, for example, you may have Judaism, but these religions are not practiced on large scales. There will be few people who will practice these religions there, but they are not on large scales. Like say, for example, suppose someone comes from India, and when it comes from India, they are Hindus. They will be practicing their Hindu faith in a small community. A few of them will gather at probably somebody's house or may want to get a temple, but not on a large scale. So we do have different kinds of religions in Liberia. I don't see them in real competition. You have some Baha'is there also.
Yeah, they were getting very popular before the war. But as this whole concept of religion helped you foster development or growth, or has it really has it held back our thinking or innovation? Because sometimes I look like, let me let you respond to that first.
Okay, it's a two-edged sword. Two-edged sword. What do I mean by that? When I was in school, when I was learning economics and history, I didn't really feel that religion was what I wanted to do. I wanted to do economics so that I would work at LAMCO or do some other thing in politics so that I would probably run for the House or do something. But then when I came to the United States and started studying theology, I discovered that my eyes were now open. I could see clearly the different issues that religion was dealing with. Now, there are some religious experiences that are just narrowed. They don't deal with human life as it is. They don't help to sustain your physical, your mental horizon. They are focused on Jesus being on the cross and you being submissive to the gospel. And that's the only way you can have the divine insight to go to heaven. But when you look at religion in its totality, you will discover that it covers almost every other thing. And that it helped me. It helped me. I know it helped so many people to be universally attuned to my surroundings, to know how to act morally, ethically, and to also know how to divide and appropriate goodness and to live a better human life instead of being someone who will be a handicap for other people. It gave me a broad insight. Liberal education through religion is really necessary. It's really necessary. There I learned ethics, for example. And if you study law, you can't study law without studying ethics. That will help you. I was teaching ethics at Cottington, and I discovered that in order to be even a medical doctor, you need to do some religious courses so that you can be both human. You can be able to touch the hearts of other people, the minds of other people. So you'll be a person fit to live with. You don't want to be cantankerous. Cantankerous people are people who are hard to live with because they only see themselves as the center of everything. But in a religious experience, you see that you are more than just the center. Others are your center.
How do we try to kind of make the religion, especially Christianity and Islam, compatible with our own culture? For instance, you want to say something already?
No, I understand exactly where you're coming from.
Oh, okay. Because there is, as you said, you are not. This is your African culture now. They are telling you, okay, you are Muslim. You have to face to Mecca to pray. You have to speak Arabic. Or you are Christian. You have to wear a coat suit to church. You no longer have to marry your late father's or your late uncle's wife.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So all these things, how do we find a bridge?
Okay. There are some similarities and differences in these religions. And our human tendency is to seek your level. You gravitate towards institution or ideas that comes into your comfort zone. So you try to see what is applicable in your own situation, so that when you hear about a religion, you see if there is any compatibility in what they practice and what you already know. For example, when the Muslims came to Africa, Liberia, many of the African people decided, well, Christianity is good, but it's drastic on the way how we do our marriage system. One man, one wife. And we are accustomed to marrying 3, 4, 5 wives, sometimes 6. Why would I do that? But Muslim will give me an alternative because I can marry at least 4. And so that's I'll take that. That's good. I like that. Okay. But on the other hand, the Islamic tradition was not always what the people needed, because there were some things that they did that the Muslims will not entertain. For example, in the African traditional community where I come from, you have the plural expression. And we didn't have time to go into the plural. But the plural is a society in which the men are initiated, and there they learn what manhood is all about. They learn to assume responsibility, to learn to take care of the family, to learn to build structures, and they learn to do other things as a community. But Muslims were never allowed to be a part of this institution, okay? Because according to them, it's elevating some cultural thing over and above Allah. So they never, and our people didn't even appreciate them there. And for them to do prostration, Islam comes with certain regulations. Like, for example, you have the 5 pillars of Islam. You have to pray 5 times a day. You do your, you give your zakah. The zakah is the gift, the financial or whatever gift you give to the mosque or to give to the religion. Then in addition to that, you if you are able, if you have the money, you can make a pilgrimage to Mecca, but that is not compulsory. It's not mandatory. You do it if you can. The other thing is you have to, the month of Ramadan, you have to pray and fast and go all hungry all day, and in the evening you can break your fast. Or you have to do that. Then you have to do your the prayer that says, there is no other God but God, and God alone will we worship. No other God, only Allah is God. And you have to say that as the affirmation of faith. Okay, so all these things required, they required certain basic instructions or doctrines.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, the traditional African religion does not have doctrine. It's not doctrinal. It's not even written in book. But Christianity, Islam, and Judaism are the people of the book. They take their instruction from the book. One is the Quran, one is the Bible, and the other one is the
Torah.
So you have these people that come from the book. But on the other hand, there is within the World Church, the major ecumenical church, a program that is bringing all these different denominations together. We call that Interfaith. And the Interfaith, whether you are Muslim, whether you are a Jew, whether you are a Baha'i, whether you are whatever you are, come and let us look at not necessarily our principles of religion, but what can we do in a humanitarian way for us to bring about the healing for the community, for us to bring about development for the community, for us to do social activities that will be of help to the entire community. So these things are taken on by the World Church and even ecumenical communities within our own country. The churches gather together and they celebrate, even though we are different in terms of our beliefs, but we must come together and do some common things together.
Okay. Now we have now religion and politics.
Religion and politics.
Yeah, so we can conclude on that.
Okay. Well, religion and politics, they are other overlapping. They are other overlapping. If you understand clearly, if you look at history, I'm a historian, so everything comes from the prism of history or the view of history. So I interpret most things from history. You will see that because of the African traditional religion, what we did on the African continent, which was a holistic perspective of our lives together. Religion is life and life is religion. Most of our early leaders were either from religious establishment. And because they were from religious establishment, they were able to blend those two, religion and politics, together so that the practice of politics would be humane. Now, if you don't add that humanity and humanism within politics, it will be completely brutal. It will be completely brutal. And in certain area, it is important, exceedingly crucial. It's a sine qua non for you to note that there must always be a liaison between the political leaders and the religious leaders, because religious leaders come in and they can bless the state. They can help to provide instruction to the people in power. They give them sound advice that will help them to rule by principle and to rule humanely. But if you don't, now it's not only the church I'm talking about, I mean the religious community. From the Islamic community, you will need advice from them. From the Christian community, you need advice from them. And even from the African perspective, you can have the elders, the chiefs, to come and give you some insight. So you can blend those together. You can bring them together, but you can't operate in isolation. The church cannot operate without the sanction of the state, and the state cannot operate without the sanction of the religious bodies. It's exceedingly crucial, exceedingly crucial.
We have a president, President Taryor, who was a Baptist minister, a vice president, Bishop Warner, and then we have President Taylor, who at times he will preach, Now we have President Weah, who has a church and is preaching. To what extent has our leaders, being Christian or Muslim, impacted our national lives, politically, economically, geographically, or socially?
Okay, in many ways. In one of the ways you just pointed out earlier, that the people in the church wanted to make Christianity the dominant religion in Liberia. Why? Because the leadership had its root from the church. If they have come from the Islamic tradition, they would definitely use the Islamic tradition of faith to be the dominant. Maybe they will bring out the Shia. I mean the religious legal system into being in the state. So what I'm saying is it depends on the particular leadership. There are some leaders that are open-minded and are willing to embrace other faiths, but religion has been a great help to us. It is out of the religious institutions, even though some things they do are not just strictly religious, but they do peripheral things, like the education is peripheral, like the medical institution is peripheral. So these peripheral activities enhance our operation as a nation. If Ganta Mission, for example, had not brought in a health thing, a lot of people who have died in that area without help. And because of that religious taking and bringing in the peripheral activities, they were able, many people continue to have a health benefit from there. And in school, most of us would not have acquired our education had we not gone to that school that was established. And it's not only Ganta Mission that will establish that, but you see Lakere, you see Swan Mission, you see
Bromley,
you see Harris, you see all kinds of religious institutions. In fact, let me tell you one thing, which is very true. Education was overwhelmingly in the hands of mission stations. Yeah. The government started taking power and building government schools. But before then, all our leaders came from the mission schools. And not only in Liberia, but all over the world, especially in Africa, all over Africa. Most of the people who became pioneers in bringing liberation, political liberation, independence to African countries were almost all of them, not all of them, but almost all of them educated at some mission institution.
I have a few questions here from our man, Christopher Roti Tobasi. There are a couple of questions he's been asking. Okay. So let me just give you a rundown. First of all, he said we have God the Father, God the Son. Why isn't it God the Mother? There are a couple of them. So hold on, I'm coming with more of Chris' question.
Okay, but let me answer it as we go.
The missionary told us to get rid of our monuments and structures. They consider them idols. What is that? And then he also said, 200 years ago, we've been hearing about Jesus coming soon. Why is he not here yet? Mm-hmm. So just combine those three into one.
Interesting question. Very interesting. What is his name again?
Christopher Roti Tobasi.
Okay, Christopher, your questions are in place. Very well in place. Your first question. And what was that first question?
The first question is, should we, the missionary told us to get rid of our...
No, that's not it.
Calling them the idol worshiping. He also, God the Father, God the Son.
Okay, yeah.
Why isn't God the Mother?
Okay, let me explain that. Now, early church, there were disagreement in the church, early. First, the church, when it started, it was not going to open its doors to the Gentiles. The Gentiles were out of reach. But eventually, they realized that the church must open its arms to the Gentiles, we should go out into the world and preach. So then by the time the book of John was written, and people were talking about this God, this Jesus Christ, the question was, who is Jesus Christ? Who is he? So they were trying to define who he was in relationship to God. And John clearly indicated that Jesus was the Son of God. Son of God, this is where, in fact, Christianity and Islam deviate from each other. And they go apart there when the church says Jesus was the Son of God. But it's the saying that Jesus was the Son of God is actually a metaphor. The metaphor is explaining a difficult issue, but in simple terms. When they say Jesus is the Son of God, it means the proximity, the closeness of Jesus to God is so close that only the Son can be that close. For example, your son and your wife, your son is close to you because that's your blood. So that's your son. He's closer to you than your wife. But the proximity of Jesus and God, they say is one. We have several passages in the scripture that contradict each other. For example, John tells us that when the world was being created, Jesus was at the beginning, and without him, there would not have been any world made except him, through him. So it means that Jesus was with God and Jesus was God. If you read the first chapter of John, that is what it's going to tell you. But you and I know very well, that a son is not equal to the father. My son is not older than me, and my son and myself are not of the same age. So if Jesus is God's son, it means that God was before Jesus. Now, our understanding of the world and of the word son, when you have a son, you have more experience, at least you know more, or you were here first before your son came. But in the Bible, it tries to say that Jesus and God were at the beginning of creation. But then we call him his son. The first contradiction. Now, in order to explain who Jesus is and the manifestation of God, how God manifests God's self, people say, well, Jesus is the Son of God. He has special purpose. The Holy Spirit has special purpose, and God has special purpose. Jesus' purpose was to come to redeem or to liberate the world because of the sin, quote unquote sin, that we have committed. And it starts with the original sin when Adam and Eve disobeyed God. So therefore, Jesus is the only Savior who can redeem us from the original sin, according to Christianity. And Christianity also says that the Holy Spirit, after Jesus left, the Holy Spirit came to be an abiding spirit that will be with us all the time, and God will never be absent from us because this Holy Spirit, which is the indwelling of God, will be with us all the time. And Jesus admonished us, he said, I'm with you now, but I'm going to leave. And when I leave, I will send somebody who will be after me, but this person will be the one who will be with you at all times. And that was the Holy Spirit. And God is the divine component, the above all, that is the coordinator of all this Trinity, this divinity, which manifests itself in 3 in 1. But the Muslims said, no, that's not right. That's not true. They said, how can God have a son? God cannot have a son because God never had a wife. God is alone, and God is only God you should worship. When you pray to Jesus, it means that you are doing polytheism. You are practicing, you are worshiping 2 gods. And they go on to say, God cannot be the Father, and then God also the Son. You're talking duality. You're talking on 2 sides of your mouth. God cannot be a Father, God be the Son, and God be something else. But we can go into detail to explain the Trinity. But a part of the Trinity is that concept comes from the fact that all major things come in three. All major things come in three. You have up, you have down, you have around you. Or give me some water. You give me some water, it's liquid. I can make this liquid by putting it in a pot and boiling it and let it turn to steam and let it go up. It will go up, it will be air now, it won't be liquid anymore. But that same water has turned into steam. But then I said, well, I can do something else. This liquid, I can put it in the refrigerator and it'll be ice, it'll be solid. So the same ice is the same ice that you have turned to gas, that you have turned to solid, and same thing in the water. So now the 3 in 1. Now the other thing, we have the spirit, the body, and the mind. There's 3 components of ourselves. You have the father, you have the wife, and you have the children. To make a family, you need the 3 components. A lot of things that are valuable and meaningful to us come in 3. So why God can be 3 in 1? Are you there?
Yes.
Okay.
One last question.
Mm-hmm.
One last question before and this comes from Darling Waywood.
Okay.
Professor, what do you think about Christianity being the white man's idea and that Jesus never existed? Let me add to that. Why is it that these major religions in Liberia, they all came from somewhere? Same Christianity from the West, Islam from the Arabic areas, okay, or the Middle East.
Arabia.
Yeah, why is that?
Well, those are religions that came to us, but we have had our own religion. I don't know a community that exists without a religion. This is
we practice this, we are more devoted to these religions than our own.
Well, maybe we have found in them what you may call salvific truth or salvific explanation. It promises us something that we can look forward to. But the African traditional religion, as I said earlier, does not promise you heaven or hell or promise you a glorious life after death. When you die, you just go to the land of the dead. And of course, we didn't even have time to talk about the reincarnation from the African perspective. We didn't have time to talk about a lot of other things. But yeah, in the African traditional religion, we own that religion. It did not come from abroad. It was practiced long before the white men touched our shore. It was practiced long before the Arabs came to our shore. And it has different expressions and different, but like I say, everything is in flux. Everything is changing. Life yesteryears are not years of today. So we have a tendency of gravitating towards new ideas and new things. Maybe we see more promise in the expression of Islam or Christianity than we have seen in our own traditional religions. But be that as it may, the African traditional religions is something to be reckoned with, either from the perspective of a Christian or from the perspective of the Muslim, because that's the only ground from which they will proselyte. Muslims go to the African traditional religion to win converts. Christianity go to the African traditional religions to win converts. But the African traditional religious practices, people who practice African traditional religions do not go to other religions to convert them. They don't do that. So why do we appreciate Western religions than our own religion? Maybe it's because of Liberian mentality. The foreign goods are cheaper than domestic goods. So we'd rather get foreign goods rather than our own product, which may even be cheaper.
Da? Imama, Sake, Tato, Ibariga.
Izuo.
Izuo, okay.
Izuo.
Your final thoughts, so we can conclude.
Okay, my final thought. You don't want to be an atheist, When I say an atheist, someone who doesn't believe in the existence of God. Because there are many ways, you look around you, these things, they're not happening by osmosis. These things, they're not happening by accident. Maybe some people will tell you, oh, that's cosmic accident, that all these things came into being. When you look around you, you don't see this transformation every day. I look at caterpillar, how it's well designed. I look at butterfly, how it's all designed. I look at the trees, the heavens, and I look at the sky and see all these things. They make me feel that there's something, somebody, some intellect somewhere higher than myself who will be responsible for these things. I may not know who that is, but I think I didn't make them. I know I didn't make them. And I have a beginning and an end. So I think I must be appreciative and give somebody the praise and blessings. If I do that, if I die, if there's no God, no problem. But if there is a God I deny, it will be a problem.
There's a song we used to sing, say, God made everything beautiful, so beautiful. You look at the mountains, the stars, the valley, there must be a God somewhere.
Yeah, there must be a God.
He made the sun to shine. He made the rain to fall. And there got to be a God somewhere. And as you said, what if there is no God when I die? Donald Trump would say, what do you have to lose?
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, but
Next week,
there's a God and you don't believe God. You don't think God made it. You think you made everything by your bootstraps. Well, that's on you. That's on you.
We appreciate your time here and that you're always there when we call you. Tonight is just an intro to this whole concept of religion in Liberia. And
I hope one day we'll expand each of these to a given lecture, because there's so much about the African traditional religion that we haven't even touched the iceberg. We haven't even touched the tip of it.
Yeah, especially incarnation. Like me here, I was named after my uncle who died and went to my mom. And so people say I look like him, I talk like him, everything about me is him. So we want to explore all those things when we come back the next time.
Okay.
Next week, in the middle of the week, we're going to bring in Mr. Benedict Wisa, aka Mama Musa, who plays for the Lone Star, and also Mr. Charles Wadsworth, who plays basketball. We're going to be discussing Liberian sports.
Okay. May I leave one small announcement?
Sure.
Okay, I am the president of the Ganta Mission Alumni Association, and we will be celebrating our annual convention in Philadelphia on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of August. And we are inviting as many people as possible to come to our meeting, our conference. It will be a very, very wonderful, entertaining conference, and you will love to be there. We are trying to raise some money to build our institution again and revitalize some of the life we have lost since a lot of the things were destroyed during the war. We want to bring that institution to a farm. So come, and we will have a lot of food to eat. We'll have a lot of drinks. We have a lot there on hand. So please come. It's going to be again on August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. But the August 3rd is the main time of the evening of August 3rd. And call me and I can tell you the place that we will be meeting. The church will be meeting in, and the events that will be taking place.
Okay. If you have a flyer for that, you can send it to us, and we'll be glad to share it as our portion of contributing to that worthy cause that you're doing. We at Focus on Liberia.
I'll send you the agenda tonight.
All right. And I want to again thank you. I want to thank all our viewers from across the globe on Facebook, or you are listening to those who call in, make comments. On behalf of my guest relations manager, Stephanie Setro, my co-host, Daniel Knuckles-guishard, and all of us at Focus on Liberia, we want to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Doug, for coming again. Wednesday, we're going to be back with Liberian sport. Until then, we want to say good night and God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.